And then you'll be that extra equipped therapist with leaning on certain things that have so much research in it. Yeah.
Can I don the sociologist feminist hat for a second?
Yeah.
My problem with some of these approaches is they wind up putting a lot of pressure and blame on parents to be perfect, and I almost feel like that creates this pendulum swing toward the helicoptering parent, that's trying to do every single thing and always be emotionally available. And in that sense, you're not giving the child a chance to increase their frustration tolerance, for example. And I think I get nervous, I guess, when people talk about oh, you shouldn't be on your phone at all. And it's you can't be 100% present with your kid all the time.
Right.
And actually that's what builds their resilience too. And there's a balance there.
There is a balance. You use the word all a lot and never a lot in what you just described.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you won't be satisfied with it, because anytime in any theory, you can never be on your phone. You have to always be there. That's problematic.
No, I mean more just the cultural context of it. I feel like it winds up putting a lot of pressure on women to sacrifice everything for themselves.
There's everything, another word again. So I'm just saying you have a relationship with really all words and nothing words.
Okay.
And now it sounds like you have a heart for people to not undergo horrible suffering because of some perfectionistic way they have to get their parenting done. All I'm saying is part of the problem with helicopter parenting is it has an all or nothing premise to it. It has fear in it, which prompts all or nothing. So can this trigger that? Yes, it can. Does it? Doesn't have to. How we think about it, how we talk about it. So I'm just saying from an interactional perspective, my ears heard it as I just heard, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I just factually observed, heard words somewhere above the, of the iceberg, where it was that the all or nothing version of this is problematic. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it sounded either too extreme or nothing.
Right.
But it also reminded me of something I learned in the beginning of the quarter about the good enough mother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's your middle ground.
There's your middle ground. And so this is why, but see, Satir would be flexible. There aren't shoulds. Remember we saw that. There aren't shoulds. You should be attending to your child at all times. There aren't shoulds. As you have your busy life doing a million things, find a way to connect with your child. See? That fits into the emotion, that fits into the communication coaching. So I like your concern. We do have a generation of helicopter parents that just, burn themselves out. We do sociologically come from a generation that didn't attend enough, and so the correction was to over-attend. That's already happened. We don't want to hear this as reinforcing over-attending. We do want to hear this. Remember that one slide about nurture? We do want to appreciate the depth of how nurture can show up, and just that little bit of what's up? That little bit goes a long way on nurture. We want to. So now, fueled by fear, forget about it. You're going to overdo something. Appreciate nurture. You're gonna like showing up every day to the world because you just have this appreciation for nurture. You find the beauty in things. What do you think? Is that?
I just think you missed my point, but that's okay.
But you're saying that this reinforces this problematic structure.
No. What I'm saying is it just ties into this pressure that women experience of that they need to be self-sacrificing, and I just was commenting more.
Well, what if here's my statement. Do you feel pressured?
Oh, that's why I said I'm donning the sociologist hat.
But do you feel pressured by this kind of thing?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe if we coach the communication, it would be, when I hear this, I feel pressured to get it right perfectly.
Well, yeah, but the sociologist is trying to look at trends, why parents are stressed and suffering, right? That's all I was trying to point out.
I like where I was going with it. Because your sociologist thing is awesome. It can keep us pretty removed from what's going on the inside, which may have fueled your all or nothing language.
I don't see it that way, but I hear you. I think you can bring in a social perspective and then bring it to the level of how does it resonate with the person. We are culturally framed people who live in a society with a lot of pressures put on us. And if we ignore that aspect of it, then we're too individually focused and we're not understanding the cultural context, is my perspective.
Right. that point is valuable because you wanna make sure anyone we're trying to help, including this class, doesn't miss these bigger system pressures that could bear down on, let's say, a mom.
Mhm.
Totally true. Totally true.
I mean, I do understand Julian's point on, putting a lot of burden and responsibility on women. Our culture also shapes women that way. That's why I saw this experiment many times, many classes, always with mother. So I appreciate you show me the same experiment with the same doctor, but with dad. I think he's, changing that a little bit through his experimentation.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Taking the pressure off
Yeah.
the women.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
a good example, countering the social pressure. A
Okay,
little
but it
bit.
like evokes such fear, I don't know, it's okay.
So what if you use I statements there?
Yeah.
My fear gets evoked, if that's what you're saying.
But okay, so other mothers in this class, when you see that video, does it tend to evoke a fear response? Diana?
But your experience isn't the reality. That's just
That's your reality.
Yeah.
That sounds like
that's your
Satir.
experience.
Your reality is true because you experience fear or evokes fear when you see that. To project that onto all mothers,
But that's like a therapeutic approach too, right? The feminist critical race perspective looks for those
but
trends.
here's our petri dish.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just basing on data, like a lot of data about how mothers experience the mothering role.
You're a mother.
Mhm.
Okay, how do you experience the mother role when you see that? You already spoke to
I
it.
already reject it because I'm aware of how much pressure it puts on me. I'm able to see it in the cultural context and then reject it as I'm not going to put that pressure on myself.
Right.
So I think having
So
a
is
bigger
that putting
awareness-
pressure on you, or is something in you putting
I think I'm
pressure on you?
missing your point again. It's okay though. I think my point is one way to look at it as a feminist theorist or practitioner is here's the overarching pressures put on you. This isn't all about you or your deficiencies. These are cultural expectations we all face, and
So is
therefore
that so?
you're
Is, so
externalizing. a
who sees that as deficiencies versus sees that as pointing to the plot, pointing to the it ingredient? I mean, so it depends. How do we experience? Does anybody else have a different experience with that?
I do. I can speak from the baby's perspective. I think from the baby's perspective, I see how vulnerable we are, how essentially helpless we are being thrown into this world. That means we really, babies, we need the caregiver. And that showed me how important this little detail. If we're misattuned, we'll be traumatized from infanthood.
Yeah.
I also see the innate drive for connection. You see the baby is reaching for the dad, constant looking. So I see some innate power in us. Comes back to one of the humanistic assumptions, right? We have this innate drive. We want connection. We want to heal. We want a good mom, good dad. So the parent needs to be good enough while balancing the lot of pressure they face from the society, culture.
I think doing the internal work is really important as a parent because otherwise we end up getting into the anxiety mode where we're like, are we good enough? When it's like, I think there's more to that. And I completely agree. Watching this video, I thought more about my husband.
Mhm.
About like, okay, he's already doing these things. And that's great because not all the parents do it, right? But I didn't feel like, oh my God, am I not doing enough? Because we can only do so much.
So can those 2 points coexist? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Super valid, zero pressure, super valid, you feel the pressure. Now, what we do maybe with, and I hope you're being heard that this pressure is real because of real systems that cause press in on people such that they end up feeling things like pressure. And that the internal work also offers a path that says, given what's outside of me, I've got to decide what I'm going to do inside of me. Now, Satir might say, maybe, when I watch that, do I end up with a defensive stance? Like, how am I processing that if we took it from a satir perspective?
Yeah, because I don't think this is negating the thing, right, of it being difficult or stressful, but I think it's, also we have to look at individually, right, your, the person's own experience and, just, case by case.
Yeah, and heart by heart, heartbeat by heartbeat.
Yeah, but it's not negating the
It's like
thing.
underneath the iceberg.
Iceberg, so that's got iceberg. So this interaction has iceberg all over it. It's a beautiful thing. It offers us, we're somewhere in all those layers of the iceberg. Now, I will say, I love all you guys. And any kind of communication interaction is meant to get us thinking from all kinds of perspectives for your growth. I think satir has a lot to offer us even in these last 5 minutes. So let's think about that. We might even take minutes next week to debrief on this a little because feelings are real.
I'm just gonna take a break, I'll say that to you.
Yep. A lot we learn in the interactions. There's a lot we learn in family therapy. And I respect you as like my family for 10 weeks. And all these interactions really matter. And you guys really matter. And she really matters. I really appreciated voices coming up in light of, because totally her feelings are so valid, but that it didn't silence you. Healthy family. I think there's a lot of satir tonight. We learn, we're trying to tune into interaction patterns, we're trying to coach it. We're trying to get to the heart of what the interior path is. We're probably trying not to have a blamer stance where we make something the bad guy, generally if we're going satir. We're trying to say, I have some interpretation of that. That's what we looked at on the iceberg and what we looked at on all those steps when it says, what do I see, what do I hear, what's my interpretation, and so on. Anybody have their heart rate affected in the last few minutes?
I'm trying to do the empathy thing, so I'm thinking why did she get so upset? If you're looking at roles. So I think what I heard her saying was she was trying to keep it top iceberg level and we took it under the iceberg and she maybe wasn't open to ready for that. And so it's you made someone go into therapy. I'm not saying you, I'm saying making if someone's not ready to hear what you're wanting to say, then their defenses are gonna come up.
Right.
And so she kept repeating about this is about the feminist stance. This isn't my personal stance, but obviously your stances come from your personal.
So stance is a good satir word, right?
Do you know what I mean? So
No,
I'm just trying to understand where it was she didn't want it to be personal and it became personal, and so I think that's probably, I don't know, I'm not a therapist.
No, I totally hear you.
But
and obviously,
if I was, that would be my.
we won't talk about
that would
her
be
per
my
se,
opinion.
she's a lovely person.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about what we're trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to get at what ended up happening in the room is the room almost said, no, come on, melt the iceberg, go, get deeper, get the heart.
Right.
And honestly, and if I came across, I don't know how I came across, I was hoping I was coming across okay, but it was more of, but what do you think? See, that was the big fork in the road. Tell me what you feel.
I think that was
You were really like a family therapist.
Oh my God, I should consider that. I work for U-Haul, I've been tricking you guys.
No, I feel you That makes sense.
Okay, yeah,
I feel like it's
No,
what
like-
we're seeing in this session. We were totally seeing coming.
Yeah, I
yeah, so you,
Important to
right?
Right.
Well, that's why I was glad that Daddy wasn't doing the only talking.
Yeah, see?
See,
Nice.
I'm Papa George, but let's let the kids talk a little, okay?
What was it like for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.